Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I am Conrad, and this is the 45 Match Week 11 review. A day or two late, but better late than never. So this weekend we saw supporters return to the stands. I have been a vocal opponent of this, more so on the sheer pandemic side of things. I just don't think it's safe or wise. They did it anyways, but I will admit that first match, West Ham, Man United, hearing those fans in full throat before that match is about to kick sounded fantastic. I mean, it was really special.
It was a breath of fresh air, considering we've had so many months without fans, so many months of just different football. It was nice.
And no piped-in sound over the broadcast.
That was nice to hear some actual fans. And VAR has been such a hot topic in specific for the last several months. And it's been because mostly fans haven't been there. I feel like with fans there, it's just a different storyline, different dynamic. Not just VAR, with everything.
A little bit more accountability because you got people yelling down your throat, right?
Never a bad thing in terms of VAR.
So Hammers look – it's still a bad idea in my view. Don't get me wrong. Hammers look great in the first half, dominating a rotated squad. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saying at the outset of the match, pre-match, wanted to rest Bruno Fernandes, not bring him on, save him for the the midweek European match, but just poor finishing from West Ham. Fornals, two off the post. Haller, don't know what happened. Just tripping over. He got the turf monster. But then he had to bring on, Solskjaer did, Fernandes and Rashford in the second half. Fernandes found Pogba in the 65th minute for a rocket. Wonderful goal. What a goal. Greenwood, Rashford would put at the final two. Pogba, Fernandes, and Mata really looked good together, creating that final goal for Rashford. So with the Pogba drama, who knows what's going to happen there moving forward. But different club, Man United, in the second half of that match.
Yeah, and that was, I think, indicative of the fact that they had a lot of resilience, a lot of ability to pull out results. We obviously know with the benefit of recording late what happened on Tuesday, that they fell late in a match and did not end up coming back to salvage the result they needed against RB Leipzig in the Champions League. But this, I think, will still be encouraging, despite the fact that Pogba's agent said he wanted to leave on Monday, and they ended up getting knocked out of the Champions League. They'll know that they have talented players. The downside of having these talented players, they've been too reliant on them. There's not enough tactics beyond it. We talk about Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp having to balance a loss of players. They're still a very good side. They have a lot of great tactical nuance.
There's a brand of football they're trying to play.
With Manchester United in recent weeks, it's been far too much of get the ball to Bruno Fernandes, let him create something and figure out what he's doing. Bruno Fernandes is an insanely talented player, an insanely positive leader for Manchester United, and they could do with 11 of him on the field, 11 players like him, but they don't have that. They only have one Bruno Fernandes, and he's being run into the ground. That's why they had to rest him, because he's been playing in every match. West Ham, they deserved to lose this match based on the fact that they missed so many chances.
And their second half performance, they just disappeared.
Yeah, that was a case of 2000 was not quite a full London stadium for them. So neither side will, I think, be too happy, too disappointed. Obviously, West Ham will be upset that they blew the lead. Didn't have a great second half, but they're still in a decent spot.
They had a really good unbeaten run for a while.
They're in 8th place at Leeds next. Good chance to bounce back. And United, they want to bounce back after falling out of the Champions League against Man City. That's going to be a great game.
United sits 6th on 19 points. West Ham, as you mentioned, 8th on 17. Next up, they are at Leeds. Next up for us, Chelsea and Leeds, as we mentioned. Chelsea are just very, 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 very good. Their performances are effortless. Werner didn't look great in this match, but with Giroud playing the way he is in the form that he is, scoring goals, doesn't matter. Lampard and Bielsa know one another well from their tangles in the championship, but Lampard one step ahead of him consistently. Had that Chelsea side always one step ahead. N'Golo Kante, critical in linking that back line with the rest of the midfield and the attack, just looked absolutely fantastic. Leeds now lost 3 of their last 5, only 1 win. They did get the early goal from Bamford, which was really nice, but then they had 54% possession, and when Chelsea had it, they couldn't get it back. They just didn't do much with what they had.
Yeah, and that chance they had for Bamford was really well done. A lot of quality to create that chance. Didn't create much else like it for the rest of the match. And that's reflected in the fact that they only scored the 1 goal by Bamford and they conceded 3 to the 4.66 xG for Chelsea. They
That's
created
crazy.
chances. Werner, as you mentioned, he missed the
sitter.
the sitterest of sitters. All he had to do was just figure out a way to just get it hit on the outside of his boot and flick it in. Instead, he kicked it up onto the bar. And
The underside of the bar.
I think
if
he was a defender, that'd be a good goal line clearance, and yet he was trying to put it in the net. I think he's still got a lot of ways to develop into this Chelsea side. He's going to be great for them going forward. And you mentioned that Werner hasn't looked great. Defensively, they allowed a big chance. They weren't burying chances. You still won 3-1 against a pretty good Leeds side. But at the same time, are Leeds actually that good? We talk about them like they have a really positive brand of football. They play the game like you want to play it. They man mark all across the pitch, a high energy pressing style, really positive to take a majority of the possession at Stamford Bridge, and yet they're in 14th on 14 points. It's fair to question how well their results have panned out this season. But again, newly promoted side, a lot of talent still to develop this season. So,
and Bielsa will figure it out, but he plays his way, and we'll see if he needs to adapt a little bit.
Pull the strings back a little bit.
So Chelsea third on 22, just 2 points behind Liverpool and Spurs at the top of the table. Leeds now 14th on 14th point. They are next up at West Ham. Chelsea travel to Everton. Next up, Spurs and Arsenal. Spurs and Mourinho look to be a wonderful match thus far. Very compact lines of 4, a front 2 that are flexible with the wing play. They rotate as they need to. Meanwhile, they're just disciplined. They know where they need to be. This formation and the tactics have been drilled into them very, very well. It's a classic Mourinho coaching job. Meanwhile, you've got Arteta and Arsenal. Couldn't do much of anything. They couldn't exploit the flanks, even though with Partey going off, they had to drop Ceballos and Xhaka way back, and then you've got miles and miles and miles and miles in between them and the attacking group up front. It got worse when Partey went off, and again, midfield continues to be their problem. They didn't do anything.
Yeah, we seem like we don't really watch Arsenal games and just kind of like pull the midfield card out of our pocket every time, but it's just been accurate every week. I think for Arteta, he shouldn't have any questions about his job. He should be the man for them going forward because he has made progress. He has won them a big trophy in the FA Cup and the Community Shield. And he's shown a propensity to be good in big matches, but
tactically very, very good.
They haven't been good in a long time. And this match they out XG'd them, and I love the XG numbers, 0.66 to 0.31. Doesn't really matter when you can't even get 1 XG. And I think
Spurs put 2 by.
They did a good job of funneling Spurs into areas they could control them. A long-range shot from Son, very well executed, a phenomenal, almost perfect shot. And then a good counterattack for Kane where Partey was literally limping off the field and Arteta just wanted to shove him back on. They need more recruitment. They need more time to develop a tactic. They need more creativity in the midfield. Houssam Aouar would be a godsend for them in the midfield because he would be a mixture of defensive nuance with some actual creativity from the midfield. And we say Ozil every week, but they don't have anybody else at the club who can do what he does.
Have right now.
So Bios hasn't been doing great. They have some really good young players, but they've been starting Willian over Nelson. So there's just so many problems for Arsenal. We've mentioned before that St. Tottenham's Day isn't going to be happening this year probably, and they're closer to relegation than they are to Spurs right now. And I do not – if Spurs end up finishing behind Arsenal this season, that will be a capitulation of epic proportions from Spurs because I don't think Arsenal have enough quality to turn the gears up to make up the gap.
They're by 11 points.
11 matches into the season.
Spurs first, 24 points. Next up at Crystal Palace. Arsenal at 15th, as you mentioned, closer to the relegation zone, 13 points. They're next up. They need to get healthy against Burnley.
And they need to win. I think that's not a must-win for his safety, but
just take the 3.
You need to win.
Yeah. Next up, Liverpool and Wolves. Similar to the sound we heard at the beginning of that West Ham match, the first one was fans. Hearing a live crowd, 2,000 of them, singing You'll Never Walk Alone was a special, powerful moment. Still a terrible idea, but that was a full-throat Anfield, and you could see on those players and on Klopp in particular loved being in front of those fans again.
Seeing those fist pumps from Klopp at the end of a match was it was nice to see that some normal's coming back. And Liverpool,
still a bad idea.
Liverpool at Anfield with fans. We remember how good they are. It's been 65 now, I believe, maybe 66 matches unbeaten at Anfield in the Premier League. it is a fortress, especially with fans there. They were able to turn just the brick and mortar place into being a good place with nobody in there. And now you get just 2,000 back, and they looked energized because they did not create as many chances as 4 goals deserved. You say that Chelsea scored 3 goals on 4.66 xG. Well, Liverpool scored 4 on 1.67 xG. That's because they had an own goal in there included as well. But a great shot from Wijnaldum, who Liverpool fans will want him to sign the new contract because he's only got 6 months left on his deal. Matip doing a great job when he's healthy. Yeah. Great header.
Well, Salah taking advantage of mistakes from this Wolves side. You cannot make mistakes like that. Specifically, Connor Cody coming back to Liverpool where he had played. Salah capitalizes on it and buries the chance. I mean, they're just clinical in capital letters that you've got written in here. Right?
Yeah, and also I think something underrated about Salah's game is people talk about him like he's a great finisher, but they kind of ignore the other aspects of his game that are just truly phenomenal. And that ball in for the Matip header was out of this world good. It just perfectly took out the defense, Patricio, and it was just right on the head of Matip to go in the back of the net. And then Trent obviously coming back from injury. Great to see him do that. He captained the side in the Champions League earlier today. So as he's getting back to fitness, back to form, it's good to see him back to the peak of his powers, especially with that ball that essentially forced Tomato to put it into his own net. It
was handcuffed. It was amazing.
Exactly. Liverpool, great. I think that they'll want to replicate this against Fulham, and they'll want to keep the flows good as they head into the match against Spurs, which is
2 weeks out.
Yeah. It's a huge one at the top of the league.
It'll tell you a lot right now of whether Mourinho's tactic can work against a side like that.
They will, as you mentioned, park the double bus against them. That's going to be a great game in a couple weeks' time, but you got to one match at a time. Drew against Midtjylland, got to go win against Fulham.
They are sitting second on 24 points at Fulham next. Wolves now down to 10th on 17 points. They are next up in a Midlands derby against Aston Villa. Last up here, Brighton and Southampton. What are you doing, James Ward-Prowse? He's got his hand up, and in the slow motion, looks like he's waving to nobody in particular. Just a terrible play by him.
And especially considering that they changed the rules, so if your hand's above your shoulder and you touch it with your hand, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's a handball because it's out of the natural position.
He's not even trying to balance himself in that circumstance.
He's just kind of like running away from the defender and kind of just touches
like he's waving to his mom in the stands. She's not even there. But he did go on to redeem himself with the wonderful corner that Vestergaard buried with just a powerful penalty. Brighton deserving of a point here. That March foul laid on right outside the box that they call a penalty on after the VAR, after saying, no, that's just a free kick. You cannot tell me, watching that video, that is a clear and obvious error that was in the box and deserving of a penalty. Brighton cheated out of a point here. Maybe this is a karma coming back after the penalty they got against Liverpool. Maybe they shouldn't have gotten, but Ings came on able to convert the penalty, look good in his return. So it's a bright spot.
One thing I'd be interested in for VAR is how difficult would it be to put chips in players' boots in the ball so you can get exact, almost 3D locations of where they are on a field.
We got enough problems with the technology they already have.
And if they got out the cameras and the 3D radar saying, "Oh, his boots are here," that would be just chaotic.
It's one step too far.
It's probably one step too far.
We got to take take technology out.
Probably is true, but I think that there is still some validity to the fact that it was just not a clear and obvious mistake to give them the penalty, and it's just tough to see that that decision was made higher up, and we don't agree with it. I think if there was the NFL style where you go out and say why you did it, I'd feel a bit better.
Yeah,
because
don't hide behind anonymity and nothing.
At least say why you did it, what rationale you had, so that way in the future there can be more consistency, that there can be more. If you have to explain yourself and you feel like people are going to say like you're an idiot.
But then you're putting that, who's going to explain it? Because that referee's not going to go out there and say, well, these chuckleheads said
You can
this.
almost see his body language when you pointed to the spot. He was saying like I don't feel great about that. But tough to say who deserved it because there was penalties on both sides.
One
was very
Ward-Prowse's penalty
was very deserving
clear
compared to the other one. I should clarify with that. But at the end of the day, Brighton wasting chances. Can't do that. I think probably fortunate to get a point against Liverpool. Unfortunate to not get a point here.
Yeah, they very
in the grand scheme of things, I think that net zero. Can't be too angry.
No, I suppose not. But Southampton moved to 5th on 20 points. They look great. They will feast on Sheffield United. I expect their ineptitude to continue. 1 point from 11 matches thus far. Worst ever start for a club. Brighton sitting 16th on 10 points. They're next up against Leicester City, who have been up, down, scoring for the penalty spot. Not much else from free play.
Interested where they're going to land in their next match.
Well, that'll do it for us. Jack, Conrad, this has been the 45. Please comment. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe. And as always, look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.